All right, so if you're into no-till gardening, you already know the deal, right? The soil is amazing, you've got hardly any weeds, and it's just so much less work. But then it's planting day, and you're just staring at this thick, beautiful blanket of mulch, and you're thinking, okay, now what? Is it my technique? Do I need a special tool? How in the world do I get these tiny seeds through all that stuff and into the soil? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today.
I mean, it's the big question, isn't it? It's kind of a paradox. We put all this mulch down because it's fantastic for stopping weeds, so won't it stop our seeds too? It's one of those things that can really make you just freeze up if you're new to this.
And hey, if you've ever felt like that, you are definitely not alone. This quote here is from a real gardener, Myron Platt, over on the Permies.com forums. And it hits the nail on the head, right? That feeling of analysis paralysis. It's a totally real thing. But the good news? The solutions are actually way simpler and more effective than you might think.
Okay, so before we jump into the how-to, let's take just a second to talk about the why, because once you get the big idea behind it all, the techniques we're going to talk about make so much more sense. This is about way more than just saving some work. It's about tapping into a really powerful system. So what we're doing in our backyards when we go no-till is actually part of this huge global idea called conservation agriculture. And really, it's all about one thing: working with nature, not against it. The goal is to build up this super fertile, super resilient soil by protecting all that amazing life that's already in there.
And it all boils down to three main rules. Number one, stop digging. No more tilling, no more turning over the soil. Number two, keep the soil covered, always, like with mulch or old plants, whatever. And number three, mix things up. Rotate your crops, plant different things together. That's the whole system, and that's what gives us that incredible soil we want to plant in.
All right, so now that we've got the why down, let's get into the good stuff, the how. We're going to look at some really practical, step-by-step methods straight from gardeners who have been in the trenches and figured out what actually works.
Okay, so here's the absolute key to the whole thing. It all depends on the seed. You got to think about it this way. Not all seeds are created equal. You've got your tiny, delicate seeds like carrots or lettuce. They need a clear, open path to the sun. Then you've got your big, beefy seeds. Think corn, beans, squash. Those guys have some serious muscle, and they can just punch their way right up through a good bit of mulch.
So for those little guys, the small seeds, the classic move is what's sometimes called the pullback method. It's super simple. You just pull the mulch aside, kind of like parting the Red Sea, right? You make a little trench of bare soil, plant your seeds in there, and then, as your little plants get bigger, you can just gently tuck that mulch back in around them. Easy. And it works.
But check this out. Here's a really clever, kind of advanced technique from a gardener named Bob Water. With this method, you don't even have to move the mulch. You literally plant right on top of it. You just drop your seeds on the mulch, cover them with a little layer of sifted compost, and give it a good watering. Then, and this is the genius part, you put a piece of wet cardboard over the whole thing. It holds in all the moisture and warmth. You just check it every day, and as soon as you see sprouts, you whip the cardboard off. It's such a cool hack.
So let's zoom out a bit, because these ideas, they're not just for backyard gardens. They scale up, way up, to big-time agriculture. Because at the end of the day, whether you're planting a little raised bed or a 1,000-acre field, the basic problem is exactly the same. How do you get a seed in the ground without messing up the soil?
You know, we always picture these giant, high-tech tractors. But the reality? It's pretty mind-blowing. Human power, what the experts call hand tool technology, that's what plants over 70% of all the food in the world. I mean, think about that. This isn't some niche thing. It's the technology that is literally feeding billions of people.
And what's the most common tool in this massive global system? It's the simplest thing you can possibly imagine, a dibble stick. I mean, it's just a pointed stick. That's it. You poke a hole, drop a seed in, and kick some dirt over it with your foot. It is an ancient, ancient tool, and it's still used today to plant millions and millions of acres of corn every single year. And this just sets up the ultimate contrast, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the dibble stick. Cost, basically zero. Power source, a person. On the other hand, you have a massive John Deere conservation planter. It's this incredible piece of engineering that costs a fortune, gets pulled by a tractor, and it does everything. Clears away the old plants, slices a perfect little trench, drops one seed at a time, and then tucks it in nice and firm. Two totally different worlds.
So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? Which one is actually better? Well, a study at the University of Tennessee decided to find out. They put these two extremes, the stick and the machine, head-to-head in a no-till field to see what would happen. Okay, so before I show you the results, what's your gut feeling? The ancient, basically free tool versus the absolute peak of modern, expensive technology. Who do you think won? You guys are not going to believe this. The results are just wow. Okay, so they measured the number of ears of corn they got for every stalk they planted. The dibble stick came in at 0.86. The giant John Deere planter, 0.87. That is statistically identical. There was no difference. The simple stick did just as well as the super complex, super expensive machine. That is absolutely wild.
Okay, let's look at it. Here are two big piles of corn straight from that experiment. So can you tell which one came from the $0 stick and which one came from the high-tech planter? I mean, really look. It's impossible to tell the difference, right?
And here it is. The pile of corn on the left, that was planted with the dibble stick. The one on the right, that's from the John Deere. I mean, how incredible is that? It's such an empowering and honestly, kind of a shocking result.
The person who ran the study, Rebecca Harmon, summed it up perfectly. She basically said that how fancier your tool is, it's not the thing that gets you a better harvest. There's something else going on, something way more important.
And that right there is the big lesson, the whole story. It was never really about the stick versus the machine. The reason both of them did so incredibly well is because they were both being used in a healthy, no-till system. The magic wasn't in the tool, the magic was in the soil.
So it kind of leaves us with this one last question to chew on, right? If the tool doesn't really matter as much as we thought, what should we be focusing on instead? Maybe the real secret to a great garden isn't about finding the perfect tool at all. Maybe it's just about feeding the soil, protecting all that amazing life down there, and then just getting out of the way and letting it do its